Okay, so unfortunately I cannot show my video because my audio is kind of messing up with Zoom, so I have to do it this way. So unfortunately no face cam, so I apologize for that, but this is my presentation on the school shooting impacts in America, understanding gun regulation and children impact, as well as educator impact. So let's get started. So on average, in America, school shootings happen way more frequent than other places in the world. Since 2018, there has been more than 200 plus incidents reported. This year alone, reported at least 2025 have 140 plus incidents. And since it's super hitting to home, this month alone, in October 2025, multiple shootings have occurred in both Mississippi and Colorado, such as Heidenberg, Leyland, and Rolling Fork. I thought this photo that you see on this slide is super important. This is from anywhere between 2000 to 2022, so more than 2 decades. The number of school shootings in both public and private elementary, secondary schools, and high schools throughout the years. Now, we know that gun violence in schools are preventable, but how? In order for us to know the how, we must know the why. So over more than a decade now, 2 decades, students, parents, and our educators, faculty, have lived in fear of gun violence happening in our very own communities. I can attest to this. I am quite terrified that this will happen to me, and I hope it doesn't happen to anybody. But knowing this, like, how do we prevent school shootings? And in order for us to know, we have to know that most school shootings usually have a connection to the school. Guns that are used by the shooters come from their very own homes. Shooters will almost always exhibit warning signs, whether it's being detached, depression, anger, just being disengaged from their friends, family, and faculty members. And I thought this one was very important, but gun violence has a disproportionate impact on students of color. Now, I felt like to add this because it happens more in marginalized communities, especially with poverty. We see a lot more gun violence. That is a whole nother topic for a systemic racism for another day. But knowing this, how do we prevent gun violence? American children will live in households with at least one loaded and unlocked firearm. Now, holding gun owners accountable if a child has access to these firearms. Having secure storage for these firearms is key to fighting gun violence. Mental health resources, providing easy, accessible, affordable mental health treatment. And of course, banning semi-automatic and reforming gun laws so we can have more control over these deadly assault weapons. More on gun reform. Just like how we can't drink until we're 21, we shouldn't be able to purchase firearms until we're 21. Background checks, mental evaluations, gun safety classes. On top of gun safety classes, having puncture wound classes. I feel like this is really important. If you're going to shoot a deadly weapon, you should know how to take care of a puncture wound of said deadly weapon. And I wanted to add this photo in particular because it hits really, really close in time to where we are, just happening a month ago. It is Colorado Evergreen High School, showing 2 girls hugging it out after experiencing a traumatic school shooting. This school shooting kind of got overlooked in the media due to the Charlie Kirk assassination, which is also a big conversation in gun reform, happening on September 10th of 2025. Not going to get too much into that, but another reason why we should end gun violence. Now, the impacts of surviving a school shooting. How does this impact our students, our faculty, our parents? Well, estimated that more than 100,000 American children survive a shooting. Research from Stanford shows that there is a higher rate of antidepressant usage amongst these students following school shootings. Shootings will lead to a drop in student enrollment, overall decline in average test scores, overall increase in absenteeism, students needing to repeat grades in the following years to come due to failing classes, failing tests, not having the drive, the exercise will, if you please. Students exposed to shootings are less likely to graduate from schools and even go to college or graduate school or being employed in their 20s. There's a decrease in employment rate for those who survived in school shootings. Really important takeaways. Despite all the protests that we see, gun violence is still happening here in America. We have not had any reform for guns, and we still see school shootings to this day, this month alone, with 3 school shootings happening in Mississippi and Colorado. Deaths are still happening, fear is still happening, hopelessness is still happening, and we have to understand at the end of the day, our educators are not shields. Our educators do so much for us, and with all the education that they have, with picking up warning signs from students that may be struggling, we cannot fully stop it until we have absolute gun reform. So the most important takeaway is telling our educators, us going to our lawmakers, our educators going to our lawmakers, and really pushing it down their throats that we need to make more laws to protect our children in our schools, whether it's from elementary school, preschool, all the way up to your master's program, us being in university. It is so important that we do this and understand the impacts, the usage of mental health services. It is so important.